I think the SMS is having difficulty seeing anything between the full dichotomy of the dichotomy of full symbiosis and full confrontation with unions. We are calling for a third way, which is independent unions with tripartite dialogue to work towards achieving win-win outcomes for both workers and employers. So it is this approach that we are trying to take. We're not trying to say that we don't work with unions at all, or we are in full relationship and symbiosis with unions. There's a third way in between.
SMS Koh.
Mr. Speaker, just a final clarification on what he said, because I'm very confused why the Workers' Party is called Workers' Party. If they are not really so pro-unions to begin with, because in their website, I'm just reading it from here, the website says, Marshall announces the idea of forming a party for workers while addressing the delegates of the Army Civil Service Unions at a conference. And he said we can evolve a plan where we can create a political party whose membership is exclusively confined to members of trade unions. So the history of WP is to be a party for trade unions. How can you not be in a relationship that is closely intertwined when you want to be a party for trade unions? I don't understand where you start from. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Pritam Singh.
Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to respond to SMS Koh. The only reason I do so is because he made a remark in his concluding address on WP leadership. So obviously I have to stand up. I second what my colleague, Mr. Gerald Giam, has said, but let me just state some points very clearly. Number one, I reject, and the Workers' Party will reject Senior Minister of State Koh Poh Koon's comments on the Workers' Party entirely. And your characterization of harmonious industrial relations between workers, employers, and the government of the day as being something the Workers' Party doesn't agree with. Number two, on the Senior Minister of State's historical analysis of the WP, I think it disregards an important fact that more than 60 years have elapsed. And the political situation has changed dramatically and significantly. And this is not just true for the Workers' Party, it's also true for the PAP. But since the SMS is on history, let me refer to evidence of what I believe my colleague Mr. Gerald Giam was thinking about when he was talking about an independent NTUC through history, through the eyes of history. And I'm referring to a publication of NTUC titled 50 Years of the Labour Movement in Singapore, October 1966. NTUC's cooperation, not one-way traffic. At an NTUC delegates conference, Ho Si Beng, now Secretary General, reminded the government and employers that the NTUC's cooperation in the task of economic development was not one-way traffic. He took issue with government leaders, particularly the Prime Minister, for speaking unendingly of labour's obligations while hardly touching on labour's rights and major grievances. I would be grateful if the Senior Minister of State can raise a single example of where an NTUC Secretary General or a Deputy Secretary General has spoken out against a 3G or 4G leader to defend the rights of workers. Now, I'm not suggesting that this is the gold standard or the test. It's not the test. But this comes to the heart of what people see and believe to be a conflict of interest. And when NTUC delegates are saying, Majulah PAP, I think people are entitled to question, do you speak for the party first? Or do you speak for workers first? So it is a simple point. The point is not about moving Singapore in a direction where employers, employees, workers, government fight each other to the detriment of our society and our economic growth. That's not the point. And I think we've been waylaid down that rabbit hole, and we've got to just come back to the central point that was being made by Mr. Gerald Giam. Party interests cannot be more important than the interests of our workers, and a symbiotic relationship doesn't mean that the NTUC is neutered or cannot openly speak out in the interests of workers. And I think Minister Desmond Tan has shared where the NTUC has spoken out, and I have no reason to believe that NTUC rank and file workers did not speak out. That is something I have to say, because I know some of them, and I have to say I have to thank them for their service for our workers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
SMS Koh.
So I don't want to prolong this, but I think it's important for Mr. Singh to realize the fact that we are even debating this legislative bill today is a proof point of how the tripartite relationship that PAP and NTUC has endured for the last 60 years or more that allow us to make this bill a possibility today. So just because the Workers' Party lost the relationship with worker unions long ago doesn't mean that because we can preserve a relationship for 60 years, there's something wrong with a symbiotic relationship. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Pritam Singh.
I'm not going to respond to that point, but just to say that, I mean, there's no question of losing a relationship in any way. Thank you.